Welcome to the Drill Down, in-depth answers to oilfield questions. I'm John Spears.
And I'm Richard Spears, and I'm about to read a letter from an ardent fan of ours.
Well, we always like to, hear back from our listeners or viewers. So,
this is a letter from Lon Perry, our dear friend up in Utah somewhere. Mm-hmm. And Lon wrote us this following note.
Okay.
I'm just going to read it verbatim. I have not changed anything because it's mostly good.
Okay.
He said, "You two do a super job each week to help us better understand this terrific world of oil and gas." Well, there's hyperbole right there.
Yep.
Your Monday show, this is choking me up.
Yeah.
Your Monday show, we're recording this on Tuesday, so he's already made a mistake. Mm-hmm. Your Monday show has replaced my old weekly ritual of tuning into Car Talk, where the Tappet brothers also took jabs at each other while talking about car repairs.
Yes.
Who knew that could be a program?
Well, what do you know?
But I was a huge listener of Car Talk. Did you ever listen to Car Talk?
From time to time, yes.
I just wonder how many other radio programs or podcasts are hosted by brothers.
Boy, you think of how what that might be. It's in the world
it's not.
There's Marx Brothers. Oh. There's Tom and Dick Smothers. There's Andrew and Chris Cuomo. There are a few, yeah. Uh-huh.
So anyway, Lon ended it with this.
Okay.
Just add a weekly puzzler and you'll be perfect. And so, Lon, this is going out to you. At the end of today's program, we're adding a new weekly feature. Because, again, the Car Talk is done. One of the brothers there is dead.
Yeah, sure.
And one of us here is not doing so well.
We're always good. A puzzle.
We're adding a puzzler at the end.
A test of ingenuity or knowledge. Okay,
because
that's great.
What do we know about our listenership?
They're pretty smart folks.
They are both pretty and they're smart. So this is going to be a puzzler. So stay tuned for the end of the program where I will present the puzzler and tell you how to submit the answer you think you might have gotten.
Gotcha.
All right, I'm going to hold that. So what's today's topic?
Well, so what we want to do is talk a little bit about, it's now earnings season for oil companies, oilfield service firms, and we use this as a chance to test how well we have gone about forecasting the quarterly change in revenues for market segments and for companies. And so this company information informs that exercise because we like to think we can learn from our mistakes.
You would think, and I hate to call them mistakes, but but because what is a forecast?
Yeah.
A forecast, you gather all sorts of things. You do the best job you possibly can, but the honest forecaster will pick a number and tell you what it is, and then when that number actually does come out, go, well, I almost got it. And sometimes, by the way, we are precisely right on.
Sometimes we are. Sometimes we are. But I'm reminded of the famous words by that great futurist, Yogi Berra.
Yogi Berra.
Yes, it's tough to make predictions, especially about the future. So with that in mind, let's turn our attention to the numbers that came out from Halliburton just this morning.
So we're recording this on Tuesday. Right. Halliburton released it to the world today. Mm-hmm. And they came out with a total company revenue number of $3.2 billion in the fourth quarter.
For Q4 2020. Okay.
So we had our dear colleague David Ott open up the magic music box.
Yep, right.
Look at what we had said for Q4 for Halliburton, and it was $3.1 billion. Okay. Now, if you stand far enough away...
So we were light by one...
Yeah, we were $100 million, maybe $150 million off of what reality...
Global...
Yeah, global revenue.
Okay, gotcha.
And if you stand far enough away from that, you say, oh, it was right. It's
pretty close, right? 3%.
But for David, and really then for us, that's not close enough. So what did we mess up?
Well, because we build it up from the bottom, or rather. Our process looks at different market segments, Halliburton's share in these various segments. We think about how the segments are moving. I think we hold the market share numbers steady from quarter to quarter.
Yeah, that's one of the things you have to do. You can't change every variable, so we make the following assumption.
Yeah.
Halliburton did not gain market share in the fourth quarter.
If that's the case, and here's what we think the market's in, okay.
And so when you dissect the Halliburton numbers, because they got drilling and evaluation, they got completion and production, we got most of them is right.
Okay.
The one we were light on, the one we were really light on was, guess what?
My guess it's going to be your favorite topic to talk about, the North American hydraulic fracturing market.
North American hydraulic fracturing market. Because if you look at what the guys said on the conference call,
Right.
They said that North American revenue increased, get this, 26% sequentially.
So from Q3 to Q4, a 26% increase in
And
that
it was
market.
driven primarily by increases in both drilling and completion activity on U.S. land.
Which is, okay, because we had seen, everybody knows what is happening week to week with the rig count. And clearly, from the low point in Q3 to the end of the fourth quarter, we saw about a 40% jump in rig count.
Yeah.
You do the average, quarterly average to quarterly average. It's not 40%, but that informed our estimate as to the gain in these various markets, right?
Yeah. So when you look back at just for us, the U.S. land frac market.
Yes.
We had projected an 18% increase in terms of revenue from Q3 to Q4.
Oh, and by the way, when were we doing these estimates?
Well, we
were wrapping those numbers up early part of December, as I recall, right?
Yeah, it was mid-December when those came out. Because we had to commit to something, and the thing we didn't know, there's a lot of things you didn't know.
Right.
But one of them is how strong did the last 2 weeks of December work out?
Right.
And we always assume that those last 2 weeks are kind of wimpy.
So Q4's got a few goofy things going on here. But anyway, so that was the timing of our estimates. So
And if I was going to guess, because Halliburton does not release the exact numbers, but we figured 18% growth on frac revenues in Q4.
Yep.
And I would have to say that it was probably 25% growth in revenue.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
So one of the things we'll have to go back and do is look at those assumptions.
Right.
And it's not rig count, it's how many frac crews are out there. And how about this?
Right.
I bet Halliburton gained market share.
Well, you might have gained market share. There's a revenue per frac stage issue going on. So there's a lot of things. This just clues us into says we need to now focus a little bit harder on that particular segment to see if we can pick out anything else that is moving differently than what we had thought, right?
Because I think one of the things that a company like Halliburton and probably the leading frac service company. So Liberty's going to come out. The other folks are, ProPetra is going to come out.
Right.
That they're going to come out and say, those frac crews that are still idle of our fleet, those were the low performing frac spreads, and the ones that are working now, they're the high performing ones. So if the average number of frac stages per day per crew was like 6 a year ago, I think they're 12 now. So we got to look at a frac spread that's working and say, it's not making as much per frac stage, but it's pumping twice as many frac stages. So I think that's one of the lessons we can learn here.
It's kind of like all-star basketball teams, right?
How's that?
Well, you pick an all-star team, suddenly it can, it's a lot better than your average basketball, even though they're all professionals, right?
Right, the Olympic basketball team from the U.S.
Yeah.
Who did they have on that crazy team? So it outperformed the market.
Well, that's good. One other thing I pay attention to, it's a little bit off topic here, but
when have we ever gone off topic?
Right. Here's the other interesting thing. I've been looking at how the CapEx numbers that these oil field service firms have been reporting each quarter, because obviously revenues are down. And if we...
Okay, and the CapEx that the service company's doing. So this is those guys building more hardware
frac crews,
so they can take it out into the field and do work.
Replace the stuff that's broken, all the rest of that thing. Yeah. Halliburton talked about an E-frac spread, for example, that was catching jobs. So these are the kinds of things that are still going on. But if you look at the total numbers, CapEx spending is down 40% or more in Q2. In 2020. So we've clearly the drop in revenues has impacted cash flow, and there are things like capital spending that are being hit even harder than revenue. And that just says something, I think, about how the capacity of the industry going forward to capture any upturn in activity. So that's something else I think that comes from these quarterly reports, and we'll just have to think hard about what that means for these.
That CapEx spend is going to be muted for a while because how much idle equipment is out there, and the only reason why you go spend money to go build something new is if the client had some characteristic of a well they've got to work on. That requires a new piece of kit.
Right. Yep. Well, fair enough then. Okay. Well, that's the first of many such quarterly reports. That would normally, this is where we would say thanks for listening to the Drill Down. But
today is our inaugural issue of the Puzzler.
What's the Ratzel, the German word for puzzle?
Yeah,
I think,
Ratzel.
Ratzel.
Yeah, In fact, if I've read, I know Lon a little bit. And kann ein bisschen Deutsch sprechen. So Lon, das ist für
Das ist für dich.
All right.
Read us the
and
puzzler.
so here you go.
Okay, go.
So here's the story. John, I'm sure you will remember when the 12 of us had a 3-story office building in downtown Tulsa.
12 people, 3-story office building.
Boy,
Yes.
that building was a piece of crap. So there was one office on the top floor,
Yeah.
one office on the middle floor, and one office on the bottom floor. How many offices would that have been?
That would be 3, Richard.
3 offices on a 3-story office building.
Yes.
So one dark and stormy night, the 12 of us were all at the building working late because we needed to get out the oil field market report. And then a tornado came barreling into the Magic City.
Yes.
So it must have been in the spring.
Must have been.
The 12 of us all began to worry as the rain got heavier. And soon the top floor, or the roof on the top floor, began to leak.
Right.
Since you are the president,
Yeah.
you and your team had that 3rd floor. And you all came running down to the 2nd floor to seek refuge in my office
Yes.
with my team.
Right.
When you guys pounded on the door, I yelled back through the door, "We can't admit all of you. We can just accept the same number of people that we already have working on this floor."
Gotcha. Okay.
So some of the people from your 3rd floor moved into the 2nd floor.
Right.
And the rest had to go back up to the 3rd floor where the roof was leaking.
Gotcha.
Because of the heavy rain.
Yes.
Well, soon the rain got heavier.
Yes.
Those of us on the 2nd floor began to get wet. So we all ran down to the 1st floor to seek refuge. And our office manager, Chris, she was waiting there for us, and she yelled through her door, "We can only accept the same number of people that we already have."
I gotcha. Right.
So some of us from the 2nd floor stayed on the 1st floor, and the rest had to go back upstairs to the 2nd floor to
Yes.
shelter in place.
Yes.
The next morning,
Uh-huh.
when the rescue workers arrived, an equal number of people emerged from each of the 3 floors.
There you go. Okay.
So here's the question.
Right.
This is the puzzler, the inaugural puzzler.
Yes.
How many people started out on each floor?
How many started out on each floor?
That is the question. And so if you think you know the answer,
Right.
email us here at drilldownshow@gmail.com. And next week on the program, we will announce the winner from the thousands of correct responses that I expect to get.
I can't wait. I'm made notes.
You're not going to remember.
I'll play back the tape.
You're not going to
and find out
remember what
it
the
is.
question was.
I'm looking forward to it,
All
Richard.
right.
Okay, great. Thanks so much for listening. We're looking forward to your answers. This has been The Drill Down. I'm John Spears.
And I'm Richard Spears.